There's value that calls for unraveling, deeper investigation in nuance, meaning that there are going to be things which seem complicated, but they're actually just nuanced. The distinction between the language of something is complex versus something is nuanced is pointing at, yeah, there are ins and outs. There are things which take experience and many hours to unravel. But the distinction is that complexity feels rigid. Using the word of something is complex, it does not feel as beneficial as to say something is nuanced. So even in language, there are small distinctions which make all the difference. Realizing that each word that one person uses has a connotation, and that the perceiver, the listener, whoever is hearing what you're saying might have different definitions for different words and might have had certain life experiences which change what they attach to specific language, the connotation behind the words that you're using. So one of the bigger areas which deserves unraveling, which deserves investigation, is understanding how nuanced communication is. That your tone of voice tells a story. If I'm going to say, like, hey, you, or hey, you, come over here. Hey, you, come here. It's different. And tone of voice is just one distinction, but there are deeper layers to communication. For example, the rate, the speed at which someone is moving or walking, how loud their footsteps are. It tells something. And what I'm talking about here is these nuances are not always and never. This is figuring out how your intuition works, because nuance and intuition integrate so well. The definition of intuition, which I like, is that it is the micro processing of millions of bits of information, like simultaneously. Intuition is taking so much and mixing it together to gather an understanding. This is not something that is consciously occurring, but unconsciously. More than 90% of what we do, how we live, what we think, is unconscious. We have millions of thoughts go each day, but so many of those thoughts are repetitive because the unconscious is operating. And what's unconscious is essentially the things which your conscious mind, the person I would label Justin Egliskis, isn't aware of so many unconscious processes. But the nuance is that you can train your ability to pay attention to what you pay attention to get you to a point where you're quite in tune with the nature of the unconscious. And when you are connected to the 90% of what manages and runs your life, you're much more likely to have an ability to direct outcomes with intention, to create a life, a feeling, a environment strategically. And this is how nuance works. Everything that I'm speaking of, it could be labeled complicated, but when you label it nuanced, it's easier to digest because there's less friction. It doesn't feel so tense. It's not so important. It's just something of value that if it interests you, if it sparks your natural curiosity, you're going to find yourself looking closer into nuance. And another category which I'm familiar with, would be the nuance of nutrition and the nuance of training. So in nutrition, I think there's degrees to everything. And that's a concept which deserves attention, is the idea of degrees. It hits on the fact of nuance, because when you realize, there's many shades. If you have a dial, a knob, you can turn it so many times to get a different output from your input. And this is just how nuance works. You pay attention to what you pay attention to, and then you realize there are a abundant amount of details which are variable, which can be changed consistently and continuously. And this is how reflection and testing, trial and error, iteration pairs with nuance. Because for your understanding of what nuance means, to become more clear on what nuance is to you, you have to, number one, create the space to pay attention and reflect upon the feedback which you're receiving. See, if you're in pain, if you have any low frequency emotion where you're in fear, you're in rage, you're in lust, you're in desire, those emotions are feedback, and they are informing you that what you're paying attention to is leading you to those emotions, or what you're consuming, your actions, those are bringing you to that same area. And through becoming a bit more intentional with your focus, you pick up on more and more nuances. And over time, this idea of compounding just is irrefutable. You realize, oh my, each decision that I'm making actually is growing and snowballing. These decisions, which might not seem big, not important, they actually, when you look at it with the right perspective, the nuanced lens, the curious and detailed question and solution seeker, you come to realize, oh my gosh, it's shocking how these small details add up and create my reality. So the nuance of nutrition, the nuance in training is realizing there's just a difference in the angle at which you lift a weight. There's a difference in the speed of each rep and the outcome that produces. So we're zooming in on the micro details of a specific action, and we're looking a level deeper and realizing, okay, so chicken and beef, it's meat, yeah, not nuanced at all. But then you can look deeper and realize, chicken raised this way has this effect on me, and beef fed this certain diet actually leads you to feel this certain way. And then beef fed a different diet creates a different outcome. So it's just looking a bit deeper. And when you do this, you realize that there are things that most and many people overlook on a consistent basis, which are the details which change the direction of your entire future, that change how you feel today, that change the outcome of your financials, your internal self-image. Everything of value is built upon nuance. So this is the trouble with people being controlled by their phones. It creates a state of mind which is distracted, which is not focused on details and has no interest in nuance. And when you're distracted, when your mind is foggy, when you lack clarity, when you're confused, there's no interest in nuance, because you're not focused, and everything seems foggy. So there's this starting ground before you can even begin to look at the details and connect to the subconscious. There are some fundamental pillars, and there's this foundation that has to be built, because if you don't have the habits and the lifestyle which create an atmosphere of clarity, then you end up foggy, and that fog just never lets you unveil and figure out the things which are right in front of your face, the signs and the feedback which the unconscious is giving you to inform you on your future decisions. You have to cover certain foundational pillars to get to that point of clarity, to even reap and sow the harvest of nuance. So this is a process. And the thing that I want you to understand is that There's no rush in developing your mind. And when I say that, I don't at all mean it's okay to be stagnant. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that you feeling behind, you comparing yourself to people who have put in 10,000 more hours than you, it's not exactly beneficial. So in this nuanced understanding of like, what can I do to make progress without feeling as if I'm behind, as if everyone's further and better than me? It's this nuanced way of comparing yourself to others. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you shouldn't just copy people. So where's the magic line? The magic line is focusing on you, the effort you're putting in each day, and realizing that you don't have to do it alone, but you don't have to do it just like others either. So you want to find a balance. This is the key concept, which encapsulates everything that I talk about in this video, in every video, is the premise of balance, realizing that there are spectrums. I mentioned shades and degrees in the dial. You don't want to fall to any extreme. If you do, you create the potential for attachment. When you're on an extreme, you're not seeing nuance because you're attached to certain biases in ways of seeing the world views. And if you are biased, if your mind is closed, then you limit the potential to notice nuance, which informs you and gets you to make healthy adjustments and changes, which are small changes in air quotes, but they add up throughout time. So it's this understanding that one thing does lead to another. It's not one thing after another, but one thing at a time. Again, same thing, but said differently creates a different energy. It's one thing at a time. You're not behind, you're not rushed. You're at the right place at the right time. I know you can feel that. It's not that one thing is after another, like you're rushing, you're inferior. That's not true. It's not true at all. You have to rewire your mind through your fundamentals, through your lifestyle and habits to begin to catch the nuance. When you catch the nuance, when you pay attention, you're going to realize that opportunities all around you and the unconscious will start to work for you. So how to do this practically? It's simply cleaning up your nutrition, training consistently, deleting the use of substances. I've been on and off with smoking weed. And what I've realized is I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. You have to come to a conclusion, which is there are going to be some times where it's okay to do something like smoke weed. And then there are going to be weeks and months and seasons where your internal mind, the unconscious, is giving you feedback, informing you that there needs to be a shift in your actions. So what I'm saying is listen to what your mind is telling you. If you consistently feel bloated, overweight, slow, foggy, confused, fearful, rage, lust, things of that nature, your mind is telling you that your actions need to change, that things need to be adjusted. If you don't listen, your life will continue to get more painful. And here's the thing, I can tell you this, but it's easier said than done. So what do we do to practically change, to figure out what the mind, what the unconscious is telling us? We have to clean up. We have to be honest with ourselves. For example, I've been smoking lately, and I've gotten to a point where I just realized, dude, it's time for you to take a break. It's time for you to let the leaves fall off. And it's beautiful because it's fall. So I'm taking this sign as in, the seasons are changing within the weather, the environment, but the seasons for me personally are changing too. So just to cover that weed topic, I'm not telling you to do it, to not do it. I'm telling you to pay attention to what you feel internally and to question yourself, to make sure that you're not bullshitting and manipulating yourself. Because usually, for me personally, it's been always an internal battle. There's one part of me, then there's this other part of me. And it's this continuous like ball juggling of justifying what I should continue doing, but then realizing certain things that I'm doing are not being helpful to the path I want to go down, and they're not serving me. So then again, it's like, but it's okay. And then it's like, but you're limiting yourself so drastically. And there just comes a point where you get to sort of a decision, and it's either to continue to feel low frequency, or to make the change, which is challenging due to the ego's attachments and preferences. But once you break through that initial barrier of implementing the change, you start to realize, my mind knew. My mind knew that removing this certain thing, whether it's processed foods, a toxic relationship, a certain way of treating others, a specific worldview or ideology, everything aligned with what I'm saying. You come to see, oh, by removing this thing, I am much more clear, much more focused, and therefore I am rewarded with feeling much better. So nuance is all around you. But the question is, what are you doing to enhance your ability to notice nuance? Do me a favor, like if you're serious, journal about that. And while I'm here, I'll have a link in description for my one-on-one offer. It's not for everyone. It's for specifically high achievers who have been stringing some things together lately, but you're just not exactly sure how to piece it all together. The offer is specifically mind, body, spirit. And whatever you may be struggling with, whether it's stress or a relationship, or you're overweight, you need to gain muscle, spiritually you're lost, anything like that, mind, body, spirit, it's not for everyone, but it's worthwhile to see if it's for you. So I have a link in description. You can click there. There will be buttons to apply, read through the page, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. So another version of nuance or context is zooming in and zooming out. Apologies if you heard the neck crack, but what I'm getting at is that there needs to be a strategic implementation of what frame you're looking through. And if you're consistently in tunnel vision, it is not beneficial. If you're consistently zoomed out, it's not beneficial. If you can tap into zooming in and out consistently, that's where you're going to get somewhere. For example, what I noticed personally is whenever I'm working on business, it's likely, there's a trend that I've noticed through paying attention to nuance, that I might have my ego triggered because it involves money, it involves specific times, it involves other human beings. For example, that's zoomed in. I'm in business mode. So sometimes, not sometimes, very frequently, what I like to do is to be into business mode and then to hop into an action which zooms me out. For example, you do some deep work sessions, get some quality business stuff done, then you go for a walk. You zoom out, pay attention to nature, the feelings, your bodily sensations. Pay attention to what you're thinking about on your walk. Pay attention to where your attention goes on your walk, zooming out. If you only zoom out, you don't get shit done. You don't go anywhere in business. So why is business a spiritual practice? Like Dan Coe says this, and over time, it's beginning to become clearer and clearer. Because what spirituality is essentially creating a mind which doesn't get caught. Creating a mind which notices its own agitation, which pays attention to where its attention is, and therefore can guide the mind's focus intentionally. So, for example, spirituality is noticing that you're focusing on something that creates a low energy thought sequence. And since you notice, you have the ability, the opportunity to refocus on something which creates the opposite, high frequency energy rather than low frequency. Why and how does this correlate to business? Because, well, if business is a frequent ego agitator, creating low energy, your spirituality comes in so frequently because you're going to be in the space of business where you're noticing your agitation. Often it is the space which is most likely to create agitation, and you use your spiritual tools in business to make sure that you don't get trapped or stuck in agitation, which is not worthwhile. Now, sometimes it's beautiful to have a tough conversation, to take two individuals who don't agree on a topic, to respectfully to converse with the aim not to win or debate or prove this person wrong or make them look foolish. Rather, you get into a conversation to solve the agitation, to get to some sort of ground, some area where things feel a bit better than they used to feel. So this is all nuance. There are many details worth investigating, and only you can do this work for yourself. Like, no one's going to create a nuanced mind for you, but you're the soul reaper. The soul reaper, that sounds pretty cool. You reap the benefit of becoming more nuanced, more mindful. And then it actually pulls over, it overflows. Your mindfulness affects other people positively because then you help them notice nuance in their lives. And if they become more observant, they make better changes. They're noticing the feedback that their life, that the unconscious creator has given them. So hope that's valuable. If it is, do me a small favor, share it with a friend. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. I deeply am grateful for you taking the time out of your day to rewire how you think, to focus on these I can't say that word, to focus on these nuances, which are going to propel you forward in every area of your life, your mind, your body, your financials, your spirit. It's inevitable. If you take this path, if you continue to watch these videos, you will get where you're meant to be. So what I want to leave you with is the fact that what I said before is what you need to hear. Nobody can do it for you, and that's exactly why you are powerful. You have this choice to create a lifestyle with intention, you become what you would like to become. And that is based upon your everyday nuanced choices. I hope this helps. Enjoy yourself.